and we come back to them with a $45,000 bill for 89 lights, and they want to kill me, and I would want to kill me in this situation, like, are you kidding me? $45,000 for lights? People are like, I put a glass ceiling, I don't need any lights at that price. And
what's up, everyone? We are here with Spencer Ciccia, straight from Oakland, New Jersey. Hello, Spencer. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Antonio?
Doing good. So Spencer runs Elite Contracting and Design, specializes in dental construction, the best in New Jersey. So we're here to get to know Spencer, get to know your story, Spencer. So why don't you tell us a little bit your origin story? Where did you grow up? What kind of kid were you?
So I grew up in Milford, New Jersey. From as young as I can remember, I was always either taking something apart or putting something together. One of the earliest things I can remember is we had an old family VCR that we were getting rid of, and I decided to take it apart. And I was playing with the motors and all sorts of stuff, making my mom nervous. We'd get hurt. But I was really destined for construction from a young age. It came naturally to me.
So you were good at it.
Well, we never watched another video on that VCR, so I don't know about that. But I certainly got better. I certainly got better.
Yeah, because when I was little, I remember looking at people, and I made my mom buy me Legos from Toys R Us. But every time I would try to build something, it never got anywhere. So
Oh yeah, I think Legos are a critical toy in any builder's early years. You definitely find out who's going to learn to read the blueprints and who's just going to dive in.
so which one were you? Did you go by
I
the
was probably
blueprint or?
somewhere in the middle. I looked at every second page of the directions. I'd definitely skip a step or two, but yeah, no, I like to follow the prints. Makes it
That's
easy.
good. That's good. That's good. So you are like to build things. Where did you go to high school? What did you do? Who were you in high school?
So I went to Burton Catholic in high school. I would say I fit in most with the athletes. If I really liked the subject, I would sure excel in it. But for the most part, I was more of a hands-on person. Yeah, I was always with the athletes. I like doing things with my hands. I enjoy learning for a purpose, but I'm no academic for sure.
So on
And
the
then
athletic side, I actually snooped on Google. I saw that you played football.
I played football at Bergen Catholic. I also bowled at Bergen Catholic. I think we definitely won more stuff for bowling. But I played a little bit of all the sports over the years. I tried lacrosse while I was there. I tried baseball while I was there. I liked all the sports growing up. I really was no stranger to any of them.
Nice, man. That's awesome. So, okay, you go Burton Catholic athletics. Where'd you go to school, college?
So I went to Rutgers, New Brunswick. We had a really good time there. After there, I continued on to the Carpenters Union, and I spent about 16 years working in the Carpenters Union before going full time into my own business.
Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit about the Carpenters Union? What is it exactly? What did you do there?
So, I would say the number one thing I love about the Carpenters Union, still love the union to this day. I pay all my dues and everything. I like to support them. The union gives you a model to follow, a rubric that a lot of people don't know. And after becoming a general contractor, I don't work physically like I used to, but the union just has so many people that are looking for the jobs that there's a pressure to perform and there's an expectation of how you should perform. And those are some of the best things that I got out of the union. Like showing up on time in the union is mandatory. That is non-negotiable. Like 5 minutes late and you could go home for 5 days, and you stop doing it. And they really installed really good things like that in us. They made sure we were trained better than most professions. I would say today, like when I left the union, we were doing as much as 100 hours of training a year in the classroom, which I think is pretty good for people that are not doing, academic type of work. So they definitely create an environment that I think everybody should strive for in the private sector. And I think the union should, try to double down on what they've been doing and do it even better. But I really enjoyed my time in the union quite a bit.
So, what prompted you to switch to your own business? Was there a signal, a sign that you were like, okay, I think it's time?
I would say I was definitely hungry. I wanted a little more. I wanted to be involved in the bigger decisions. I wanted more responsibility, more pressure. In the union, they almost have like an artificial set of rules where you have to be of a certain age to make certain decisions. And I felt like I was outpacing that, and it's just very hard to get into a management role when you work at, a company that does $5 billion a year in business. We were building skyscrapers, not offices. So it's really hard to get in the mix of some of the bigger decisions. And I was hungry for more. I wanted more for myself. I wanted more for my family, and a business seemed like a natural next step. And then where and how you take that step is, it's that I feel like it almost has to be organic, but it really was prepared very well for it from the union.
That's awesome. So did you start with dentist offices right away, or what were you working on?
I did not. I actually started with almost anything that we could find. My wife was very influential in the beginning. We were more of like a weekend warrior company. So we would find a lot of work from Facebook. My wife would find people who were looking to do, a deck repair, and we would go and do it, or a gutter repair, and we would go and do it. We made very little money doing this. It was a war of attrition, but it started paying dividends after about a year or so, where people would call us back and say, "We want to replace the whole deck now," or "We want to redo all of our gutters. We can afford it. We want to redo our windows," or "My cousin's doing a kitchen." So we started off very much in residential doing the small projects, and the small projects turned into kitchens and bathrooms. Kitchens and bathrooms turned into basement renovations. Basement renovations turned into entire house renovations.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So when did dentistry enter the picture for you?
So we ended up working for a friend of mine who's a great orthodontist, and his business was excelling, and he was looking to open a second practice. So almost jokingly, he said to me, "So you're going to build my office next?" And I said, "Not a chance," because it seemed a little overwhelming at the time. We didn't know anything about dental, and there's just so much going on from equipment to the types of spaces you're building in, and he was really very supportive from the client perspective, and clients are usually never too supportive of the contractor. So it was nice to know that he had like confidence in my ability to do it, and it actually turned out that he had another doctor. They were renting both sides of the penthouse in Jersey City, and they asked me if, would you do both if you're going to do it? And we ended up saying yes. But I'll tell you, there was a voice in the back of my head that said every day up until we started that job, like, just figure out a way not to do it. Tell them anything, it's that the bad angel on your shoulder, so to speak. And we just showed up one day and we started demoing, and it went really well. And then we started reaching out to different people we had worked with and said we were interested in continuing to pursue the work. And before you know it, we did 10. So I'm really glad we didn't listen to that voice in our head. And I'd encourage everybody else, like, you can do it. It has to be well thought out, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right. That makes sense. So that first build out, what's the dental was making you nervous? Was it like that different from different commercial build outs
Um,
or
I think it was a little bit that it was some of the most money we were going to be responsible for in an individual project. It's really important to me that we could like honor our clients' budgets. It doesn't always go that way. I've had really good success in doing that. Some of the other things that were concerning is that it's Jersey City and not a local municipality. So the Jersey City building department had a lot of hoops for us to jump through. We were also working on the top floor of the building. So that created a lot of logistical challenges. At the time, we weren't as large of a company, so we didn't have as many people to facilitate things just as simple as getting the material into the building. And I had known that all these things were going to exist from my time in working in high-rise construction. And I knew what the solutions were. I was just unsure if we could actually get the labor and did we bid it properly to make all this stuff happen. To give you an idea, like when we would normally plan a project for a house, we maybe had a 3 or 4 page manifest, means and methods of how we were going to perform the work. And to do this office, we had over 20 pages. So it was just a question of scaling. And I think scaling is scary to everybody because you just don't know. I always found it very hard to articulate magnitude. So like if you do a 6,000 square foot project, which this was, it's really three 2,000 square foot projects, right? But at the same time, it's not. It
Yeah.
comes with added challenges. And I think it was great that we had that one as our first one because it made the next one seem that much simpler.
That's awesome. So anything that went wrong that you can tell us about? Anything you learned from that
Oh, on the
first
first
project?
one, what didn't go wrong? Um, I would say the hardest part is logistically when you're running some of these jobs. In a dental office, you have a lot of different licenses that are involved. You need a contractor's license, you need a plumber's license, you need an electrical license. HVAC guy needs to know what he's doing, but not necessarily be licensed. You need an IT company that needs to be licensed. And I think for me, the hardest part was when you start reaching out to all these people, you need all these people. Getting them all to work on a schedule can be very difficult until you've built up relationships with them and you have a trust factor and they know that you pay on time. And that was very challenging on the first one. And our schedule just seemed like horrendous the whole time. However, we did finish on time, but it seemed very painful. Whereas today we have a very good working relationship with our subs, and we've gotten much better at telling time the way other people tell time. So something I always joke about with my project manager is they say, "Hey, Sheetrock says they're showing up on Monday." I said, "They never show up on Monday. I'll be there Wednesday. They'll be there Wednesday." And we learn to guess better really at what our subs are doing so that we can sequence the work properly. On the first one, that was really challenging for us.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So you have now a more sort of a team that you kind of pull together when you need it.
Absolutely. Also, I think something that I'm much better at now in regard to timing after that first project is I take a much broader view of the work, whereas before I was very involved in the nitty-gritty, borderline micromanaging, depending who you ask. And I realized that when I took a step back and I allowed the people that I was working with to look after the nitty-gritty, that I could put together the big picture, and it started working much better for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Excuse me. So you said how many offices have you built by now, would you say?
Strictly dental,
Yeah,
we're up to 12 completed offices. Very excited about 2026. A lot coming up in the docket. Can't wait to update you guys on those.
that's awesome. We can't wait to hear about it more. So can you tell us about the most complicated dental office you've worked on?
The most complicated dental office we worked on. Um, I don't know that any of them are complicated, but they definitely come with individual challenges. And putting them all together in the time frame, I think, is what makes it complicated. So if you were building a hospital and you had 10 years, it's not very difficult at all. Building a hospital in 2 years is very difficult. Same thing for the offices. The larger the office gets and the more elements that are in there and the tighter the time frame gets, that's when it becomes stressful. But we recently did a project in Edison for a doctor that was doing full mouth reconstruction, and he had a lot of additional equipment in the office that's not normally in an office. And one of the challenges we had there was climatizing the space. We had certain areas that were generating heat, certain areas that had a lot of exterior exposure, sun exposure, and figuring all these different aspects out when you're in a 3 to 4 month deadline can be very challenging.
Yeah, so we spoke a little bit about that. Can you tell us a little bit about the problem you had with the heating or the situation you had with the heating?
Yeah, absolutely. So the equipment was creating a lot of heat, and the architect was aware of the equipment, but I don't think he truly understood how much heat these would generate and how often they would actually be used. The doctor we worked for in Edison, Dr. Shaw, is a phenomenal doctor. He is packed every day. So as a result, he's milling teeth every day in the office. And the compressors were getting hot, the milling machines were getting hot, the sintering machines were getting hot. And they didn't just have one of them. They had multiple milling machines, multiple sintering. We had um, two 40-gallon air compressors in there, another air compressor, vacuum system. These were all creating heat. And totality of circumstance led us to things started to overheat. So we went in and we increased the size of the exhaust fans to 800 CFMs from about 125 CFMs. So that did a lot to remove heat. And we also are investigating using additional cooling systems in the space. I think the doctor's interested in that. But yeah, the amount of heat that your machines can create, it's really important. Another aspect that kind of led to some of the heat that was building up in this space was we had managed to squeeze in a mezzanine in the office so that the staff could get away from the hustle and bustle on their lunch breaks. Built a nice staff lounge and a private bathroom upstairs for them. As a result, in this interior part of the office where all the equipment was located, the ceiling was actually lower than the rest of the office by about a foot and a half. So this reduces the volume that you have in this room compared to all the other rooms. So the heat is actually settling a little lower in the room. And if you have a piece of equipment sitting on a 36-inch countertop and the heat's a little lower, all of a sudden the equipment starts to overheat. You have trouble with the low voltage wiring. But we eventually got it all solved and it's really great. We got that text message from the doctor. He said, firing on all cylinders over here, guys. Thank you so much. And it was challenging. I don't think anybody can figure out HVAC when you have all those type of complications, on a blueprint. I don't care what the engineer says, he's lying. Promise you that. But yeah, it was a challenge, and the doctor was cool. He would update us regularly, like because we would try different things, and he'd say, "Hey guys, this room is still overheating," and we would go in. In some cases, we removed diffusers, we relocated diffusers, additional cooling system, exhausting the rooms, putting vents on some of the doors, just increasing the airflow on the interior part of space to just cool things down. Took us about a week and a half to resolve. And definitely a learning experience, something we'll take with us anywhere.
Good, good. Yeah, you really seem to be in the groove of things now with your confidence to do these dental offices. So,
Oh, well, hindsight's 2020. At the
uh,
time, you're definitely a bit more stressed out than I feel about it now.
right. So, something I'm interested in, how long does a typical dental office build out take?
So it depends on the type of office you're trying to build. I would say two main type of offices that I would describe that we build is sanitary and professional, and then the other offices put a large emphasis on design in the office. So I'd say a standard office with minimal frills would be about 3.5 months. If you want to give yourself a little contingency, that 3 to 4 month range is pretty good. And the fifth month, the contractor and the doctor may be sharing the space, punching a punch list, doing, hanging signage up, different little things like that. So I would say 3 to 4 months is the standard. If you get heavy on the design, I would say you should add about a month for finishes. If you're doing accent walls, photo walls, if you're heavy on the tile work in your space, or you're doing a lot of LED, low lighting, under lighting, up lighting, these are all different aspects that just take time or they take time to do them right. So I would say you add about a month. So if you have a heavily designed office, you're on the 5 to 6 month range. If you have a sanitary or professional looking office, you'd be somewhere in the 3 to 4 month range.
Cool, cool. So, a doctor comes to you right now and says, "Hey, I'm considering building a dental office." What are some things you tell them to consider?
So I think the most important thing about any build, whether you're building a dental office or a shed in your backyard, is to just come up with a budget and a realistic budget. Talk to some people in the industry, maybe talk to friends or family that have done projects, talk to consultants, talk to, maybe your lender has experience with this or your broker. But coming up with a budget allows you to have a framework for making all your decisions, right? Like if do you want to do the sanitary professional office? Or you want to do the designed office? It really is going to depend on your budget. And this can save you from wasting a tremendous amount of time. Like a very common theme we run into is clients will meet with designers and architects and they start going over stuff and they had a rough idea because somebody they know built something similar to them in the past. So they're married to this number in their head. And then they get to us and they say, well, why is it so expensive? And I say things like, well, why do you have 75 rolls of wallpaper in your office? That adds to the price. Your design professionals, they avoid the money conversation like the plague. They just won't have it with you. Simple things, even like in offices, lighting is one of the most expensive products that you can upgrade. And architects and designers, they'll just go around, they'll spec the nicest lights, they look beautiful, but they're $400 a light and you have 89 of them. They never ever mention that to you in the office. So we come back to the clients and we say, hey, everything looks good, but we have a change order on the lighting. And, usually clients understand that when they pick nicer stuff. And we come back to them with a $45,000 bill for 89 lights and they want to kill me. And I would want to kill me in this situation, like, are you kidding me? $45,000 for lights? People are like, I put a glass ceiling. I don't need any lights at that price. And
So how do
it
you avoid that?
the way to avoid it is having a proper budget and to keep bringing that budget up. Like if you ask your architect, you say, hey, I'm building a 3,000 square foot office and I have a $350,000 budget. Does this type of lighting package reflect a budget like that typically? And although they may not want to answer the question, they can say, well, there are other cost effective options and you can start exploring that. And when you have a budget, it's just easy to make the decisions and they stay focused. If you don't have a budget, you're guessing to see what you can afford. And it's a really difficult way to do a project. I can tell you at the professional level, when you're building high rises or hospitals, large housing developments, there's 100% of budget from the beginning. Absolutely. I feel like sometimes when you're dealing with new clients, they're always after the cheapest price. We used to have a joke in high rise construction. Do you want to live in a high rise built by the cheapest contractor? It's a little scary to think about. And I think the same goes for a lot of people's projects. And I think if you set a budget right from the beginning, you can make informed decisions based on that budget. And I found that clients tend to get what they want when they start with that budget price. When they make us guess the budget, it's very difficult. So one thing that I'll do as a contractor, if I'm guessing a budget and I don't kind of know where we're working with, is I will we hold back a little bit on like information we can share with the client. That's not really our job because you have to be careful about the gotcha moment, like, oh, you said that it was, and it's just a difficult way to do business. Like, I think it's fair to share your budget with everybody. You should have maybe a 5% contingency. That's pretty common for simple change orders on a project. But that's really the way to get what you want is to start with a budget and to share it with the important people in the project.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So you built 12 offices, a lot of them this year. Any 2025 trends common trends you're seeing across these offices?
Absolutely. I would say the most common thing we saw is natural color scheme. People definitely shied away from like the moody man cave and they kind of moved more towards we did a lot of lime wash this year. We did some faux finishes. You could see our videos on TikTok with interiors by Paula. Another common thing is wallpaper. Wallpaper is back with vengeance. It looks really
Wow.
cool. A lot of our clients have elected to put some design work into the ceiling, and I really like that. It adds a lot of dimension to the office. Ironically, in a dental office, people spend the most time staring at the ceiling. So I feel like it's worth doing something to the ceiling. We use an upgraded product, a slotted drop ceiling as a standard. But yeah, I would say the organic color scheme, anything you would see in nature is really popular. And doctors are putting a lot of effort into how comfortable their patients are in the office. And it's really nice to see them do that. We were lucky to work with some great clients that put a lot of effort into their offices and they're really designing the reception area really nice and the waiting area. And when we're there at the end of a project, it's just awesome to see the clients come up to you and be like, I love being in this office. Never heard anybody say that about a dentist my whole life.
Yeah, I used to hate going to the dentist as a child because you had the dentist smell and
Yeah, and I
the-
just think that like if a patient really likes the office and they're comfortable being there and they don't mind sitting waiting 15, 20 minutes, then when you get in with the doctor, now they can engage with the doctor better because they're just in a good mood, you can give the doctor more information and then he can make a better diagnosis and hopefully a great treatment plan for you. But I really think that the environment is like, excuse me, is a big part of it. And it's nice to see doctors putting some effort into it because they definitely spend more money and it costs them more time to figure out all these design stuff. So it's definitely they're going out of their way to make some really nice offices.
It's great. So do you see these trends continuing for 2026?
Absolutely. There's been no slowdown in design. Doctors will go on either Google or Pinterest, or they're working with a designer and they come up with some really cool stuff. It's exciting to build these projects. They're definitely not the dentist office I grew up at.
Yeah. So is there anything that you run into the dentists maybe think it's simple, but you're like, I'm not so sure about
Everything.
that?
Everything. I think everything. No, I'm kidding. Um, what do they think is simple? I think change orders, that's like the dirty word in construction, change order. And I sometimes I don't think people understand how much planning actually goes into the initial phase of the work. Like I would say before we could even like break ground on your project, between just studying blueprints, sourcing materials, scheduling, we probably have 500 hours in on a project between myself and project managers. So when somebody makes a change order, they say, "Oh, well, we spoke about that." Well, it's not quite that simple. We will have to sometimes circle back with the architect and say, "Hey, does this product meet fire codes? Does it meet accessibility codes? Everybody's favorite ADA codes?" A lot of people struggle with that. But it's not just that simple to just, "Hey, I wanted to move the wall here." Like a common joke I'll use when somebody says, "Oh, can we just move the wall over like a foot?" I'll be like, "Yeah, grab that side." And they say, "What?" I say, "Well, you grab that side, I'll grab this side. We'll move it." And they say, "You can't move it like that. So why are we using that word?" Because it seems simple, right? But the change order is the hardest part of the job. Most people want it to go a little faster than you can, but really the best way to avoid this problem in the project for everybody is just spend more time planning. Tell your contractor everything. Tell them things you want. Tell them things you absolutely don't want. So when we're looking for solutions later, we don't suggest them to you and irritate you in an already difficult decision. Like if you hate the color blue and we get down to the end and you've never told me this and you're saying, "Hey, like what can we do to dress this place up?" And I keep recommending you blue because I really like blue. Here I am. You're gonna be like, "Why does this guy keep telling me about blue?" And it's because you have to frame it for them. Like I tell my clients, get me in your head, whatever it takes. Send me Google pics, send me Pinterest pics. Even if you're just walking down the street and you love something or hate something, shoot me that picture with what you want, thumbs up, thumbs down, and then we know where you're looking to go, and that really makes the process move a lot better. But yeah, change orders definitely take more time, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people maybe don't realize.
So how long do you usually plan out with doctors before even starting anything?
It really depends on the client. Some clients like to go to designers, and then we'll spend a lot of our time actually understanding what the designer put on paper. Um, in other cases, if we're working directly with the doctor, I would say we end up doing Zoom calls. Like one of my favorite offices we did in Bedminster this year, two great doctors. Um, Dr. Sarah and Dr. Jerry. We would do Zoom calls on Sunday. They were scheduled from 9 to 10 in the morning, and we'd usually get off that call somewhere around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And everybody would be frustrated and worn out and exhausted because we just had these long sessions. And we probably had at least 4 or 5 of those with the clients every weekend. Their office came out absolutely beautiful. It was hard work. We didn't always agree. We didn't always get along, but we also agreed a lot. And we also figured out what each other liked quite a bit. And they have an absolutely beautiful office. And I give them a lot of credit for doing the work. The two of them, like when we asked them to like check stuff out, or we asked them to, like take the samples to your house and walk past it for a week and let me know if you really like it, because we were matching it up with other products. They did the work. They really did the work.
You're very passionate about dental offices and very very knowledgeable. Why why did you stick with dental?
You know, I guess one of the things I like about it is that the offices are about 3 to 4 months, right? So you get to see a lot of different locations. I never liked being locked down in one spot. Also, the work is pretty technical. So, like I had said when I started my business, I just wanted to be involved in more decisions and feel like you had you'd made it to that next level, and the offices provide a lot of that. There's always a challenge on every product, on every project, whether it's like how are we going to make the mechanicals work? It can be a very challenging part of the job, where we have to work in other people's spaces, and you're always trying to figure out this riddle. And I enjoyed it. It kept me very busy. Also, it feels like you're part of something better. Like I said, like, when you're finally done with an office and a doctor says, "Oh, I absolutely love my office," or when the staff comes up to you and they say, "Oh, this place looks great," it just feels like you're part of something bigger. And a lot of people benefit from building these offices. The doctor's happy. The staff is so excited to get their, office upgraded. They have a better lounge now, place to put their stuff. And then the patients, even when they give you a compliment in the office, it really feels great. You feel like, we're not the doctor, we're not changing people's lives like this, but that's our contribution to it.
So do you tell your wife when you get a good word from it? I know, like when somebody compliments
Oh,
something
you
I
don't
do
even
for
have to
me.
tell her. I don't even have to tell her. She knows already. She can see it in my face. She's like, "Oh, did somebody text you?" And I was like, "Yeah, he just said thank you." And that's the best part for us. Like, we just want everybody to have a beautiful office, to the best of our abilities and, budgets permitting. But yeah, all of our partners, I feel like, have worked really well on their projects. And it really is. It's a big team that comes together, from equipment specialists to financing, design teams, architecture, engineers, contracting, subcontractors. It's a lot of people to organize.
So are you more of the organizer now? Do you still build with your hands?
I definitely will build with my hands if need be. From time to time, we get into some complicated stuff, or we had the project in Edison where the doctor said he really wanted to upgrade the reception. He wanted his patients to just have a beautiful place to wait. And we were in a super time crunch. We had all our final inspections already ready to go. And he asked if we could do a design soffit with some LED lighting. It required we moved lighting, fire sprinklers, HVAC diffusers, HVAC returns. It was a lot to change. So yeah, I jumped in, and I started doing a bunch of the framing myself until my carpenters were done doing what they could do. Then they jumped in, and then I just stayed there as a composer, pointing you, just to be the leader for that. It took us about 5 days, but we totally transformed what we originally had planned into like what I think is a really beautiful waiting room. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
no.
definitely no stranger to building.
We need to get some photos of that so we can include it.
Absolutely, we'll share some with you guys. But yeah, I'm no stranger to jumping in. Sometimes the guys enjoy it, sometimes they don't. So
So what makes elite contracting and design? We are nearing to almost till the end. I know we have a hard stop, so I want to be respectful of your time. What makes elite contracting and design different than other dental contractor build outs?
I would say we have a very dedicated team, first and foremost. But secondly, I, at Elite Contracting Design, learned in the city when I was working there that project management is key. And you need project managers that will tell the contractor no, tell the contractor yes, tell the architect no, tell the architect yes, not just somebody that will agree with everything. You need somebody that's looking at all the material objectively and can give secondary advice beyond just the contractor. And we use project managers for all the projects. Somebody's assigned to the project, and it's an invaluable part of the job because, from the contractor's point of view, he might make a decision based on time or money, right? And then, when you refer it over to your project manager and you say, "Hey, this is how we're planning to do this," and then he looks over and says, "I don't think you can do this because of XYZ." That's a great thing to have in your business, just a checks and balances, so to speak. At this level of construction, I've seen with a lot of people I work with that there's one contractor and maybe he has a right-hand man, but he works in the field. You really need somebody that can be in an office, take in all the information objectively, keep it organized, categorized. If the equipment specialist reaches out, very common question we get all the time is, what's the height of the ceilings? Because they're ordering overhead lights. And sometimes this question can take a while to get answered. Whereas when you have a project management team that's responsible for knowing the information, we found it's extremely helpful for everybody that's been involved in the process. Whether it's equipment asking a question, architect answering a question, all these questions are going to one central hub beyond just the contractor. And it's a great asset to know that, you don't miss things that way and you don't make stupid decisions. Excuse me. So I would say that's the one thing that I've noticed beyond Elite that a lot of I haven't necessarily seen it at all the companies, project management. I've seen like client reps that act as project managers, but I think every contracting company needs their own project managers. And it comes with a cost to Elite, of course, but it's a cost that we love affording. It really makes the projects turn out really well.
Awesome, Spencer. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. Let's definitely get some pictures. We'll try to include them so people can see what elite contracting and design is all about.
Excellent. Yep, we'll definitely share some pictures with you, and thanks for being here with us.
All right. Thank you.